Now, graphs are not just a technical thing you need to be able to produce, they are also a form of communication, just like writing or talking, a very important form of communication. And just like any other form of communication, it's not enough just to know the technical details of how you make a graph. You've also got to know what makes a graph a good way of getting your argument over. It's the same as in writing. It's important to know your letters and how to spell things, but that's only the start of good written communication. You also have to know how to make a case, how to persuade with your writing, and it's the same for graphs. In this pre-lab, we're going to talk about some of the main things you need to know to make sure that your graph is not just technically present, but actually can convincingly make a case. The first factor is to do with not overloading the people looking at your graph. In particular, it's very hard if you're reading a scientific paper, or you're sending in a memo to your manager, writing a brief to the Prime Minister. They're trying to understand what's going on here. It's very hard if they have to flip between the text and the graph. So wherever possible, the information that's needed to understand the graph should be on the graph. Now, the first rule is always, always, always label your axes. Often it makes sense to put a label up the top. There's some scientific journals don't allow that, but it's usually very helpful for most other purposes. The second rule is, if you're trying to make some point with your data, label the graph to make it. For example, let's say this is the income of a particular company, and you want to make the point that when the new manager took over, the income went up. Don't write that in the text below the graph, because then a reader has to jump between the graph and back there and try and understand what's going on. Actually label it. Put signs on your graph, like new manager takes over here, or this point was when we accidentally set fire to the warehouse, or whatever it might be. Put the labels on your diagram. Now, once again, occasionally you're not allowed to do this. Some scientific journals, mistakenly in my opinion, don't allow this. But for most form of communication, this is far better than having your diagram and then explaining it in the text quite separately. How do you do it? Well, there are many graph packages you can generate your graph loaded into and edit things. You can do it in Photoshop or many other pieces of software. I personally use PowerPoint. I just produce my PNG graph, paste it into a PowerPoint slide, and then use PowerPoint's drawing tools to add text to it, and then screen grab the thing at the end. But if you're writing grant applications or government briefs or sales pitches or all sorts of things that require data, this is the way to do it.